She was young, beautiful, and adored by her people. To many, Queen Astrid of Belgium seemed to embody the fairy tale image of royalty, a Swedish princess who married for love, became a queen, and won the hearts of a nation. But on a summer morning in 1935, everything changed. This is the story of Queen Astrid, the queen who was lost too soon, but never forgotten. Astrid Sophie Lovisa Thera was born on November 17, 1905, in Stockholm. She was the youngest daughter of Prince Carl of Sweden and Princess Ingeborg of Denmark, and though her lineage tied her to two powerful royal houses, her upbringing was far from the stiff formality most people imagine when they think of royalty. Her parents chose to raise their children in a way that was unusually modern for the time. Instead of endless ceremonies and rigid etiquette, the family life in Stockholm's royal household was warm, simple, and close-knit. Princess Ingeborg, in particular, wanted her children to grow up with affection and responsibility, not with the aloof distance that had shaped so many European royals. Astrid grew up with two elder sisters, Margarita and Mertha, and together they formed a lively trio. They played outdoors, rode bicycles, and spent hours in the gardens, often more like ordinary children than princesses. This freedom gave Astrid a natural warmth that people noticed from an early age. Family, friends, and attendants remembered her as cheerful, approachable, and entirely without the arrogance that royal titles sometimes bred. Her schooling was practical rather than excessively academic. She was taught the expected languages and courtly accomplishments, but she also learned everyday skills that many royals of her generation never touched. She loved reading novels, enjoyed hiking and skiing, and had a deep appreciation for nature. Those who knew her remarked on her genuine interest in people. Astrid listened more than she spoke, and when she did, her words carried thoughtfulness beyond her years. But life as a young princess still came with expectations. In early 20th century Europe, marriages among royals were rarely just about love. They were political moves, ways of tying dynasties together. By her teenage years, newspapers were already speculating about Astrid's future. Would she follow her sisters into prominent marriages abroad? Would she become a queen in her own right one day? What stood out, however, was Astrid's personality. Photographers admired her striking elegance, but those who met her often said it was her kindness and humility that left the strongest impression. She seemed less concerned with status and more focused on living with sincerity, an unusual quality for someone raised in palaces. It was these qualities, her warmth, grace, and natural simplicity, that would later make her so beloved in Belgium. But before that, Astrid would leave Sweden and step into a role she could hardly have imagined when she caught the attention of a young Belgian prince whose life was about to intertwine with hers. In the early 1920s, Europe's royal families were still recovering from the First World War. Old dynasties had collapsed, and those that remained were under growing pressure to modernize and appear closer to their people. In this climate, royal marriages carried extra weight. They weren't just about politics anymore, but about restoring faith in monarchy itself. For Astrid, now a young woman in her late teens, suitors came from across Europe. Her beauty, charm, and royal pedigree made her a natural subject of speculation. But instead of a purely arranged match, what happened next surprised many observers. Prince Leopold of Belgium, heir to the Belgian throne, visited Sweden in the mid-1920s. He was known as serious, disciplined, and thoughtful, a young man shaped by the legacy of his father, King Albert I, who had become a national hero during the war. Leopold was looking not just for a suitable bride, but for someone he could truly share his life with. When Leopold and Astrid met, something unusual happened. They actually fell in love. Their connection was not a matter of dynastic strategy, but of genuine affection, and that authenticity showed. Letters between them reveal a tenderness rarely seen in royal unions of the era. Astrid described Leopold as attentive and sincere, while Leopold admired Astrid's warmth and unpretentious nature. Their courtship quickly drew attention. The Belgian press portrayed Astrid as graceful and modest, a refreshing contrast to the stereotype of aloof royalty. The Swedish press celebrated her as a princess stepping into a bright future. For once, the fairy tale image of a royal romance felt real. In November 1926, Astrid and Leopold were married in a grand ceremony in Brussels. The event captivated both Belgium and Sweden, with thousands lining the streets to catch a glimpse of the young couple. Astrid, just 21 years old, moved into her new role as Crown Princess of Belgium. From the very beginning, she charmed the Belgian people. Unlike many foreign-born consorts, Astrid adapted quickly to her new country. She studied the language, embraced Belgian traditions, and appeared frequently in public with a smile that seemed effortlessly genuine. Newspapers nicknamed her the People's Princess, a title that reflected how quickly she had won the nation's heart. But it wasn't just her public role that defined her. In private, Astrid and Leopold's marriage was marked by closeness and affection. They shared a love of the outdoors, often hiking or skiing together, and enjoyed spending quiet evenings reading. Unlike many royal couples of their time, they gave the impression of a true partnership rather than a formal alliance. This combination, a fairy tale romance that was also real, made Astrid stand out. She wasn't just a Swedish princess who had married into another court. She was becoming a central figure in Belgium's monarchy, and her popularity only grew stronger as she settled into her new life. But the fairy tale was only beginning. Within a few years, Astrid would go from Crown Princess to Queen of Belgium, and the public's affection for her would reach even greater heights. Yet with that rise came new pressures as her role shifted from the light-hearted glamour of a young bride to the responsibilities of a nation's queen. In February 1934, tragedy struck Belgium. King Albert I, Leopold's father, died suddenly in a mountaineering accident. The news shocked the nation. Albert had been a heroic figure during the First World War, respected not just in Belgium, but across Europe. Overnight, his son Leopold became King Leopold III, and at just 28 years old, Astrid found herself stepping into a role she had never fully expected: Queen of the Belgians. For many consorts, becoming queen meant retreating into formality. It meant jewels, ceremonies, and a life lived at a distance from the people. But Astrid's approach was different. Almost immediately, she began reshaping what it meant to be queen. She refused to be just a symbol. Astrid threw herself into causes that mattered to ordinary Belgians. She became deeply involved in charitable work, focusing especially on issues affecting women and children. She supported hospitals, promoted maternity care, and made personal visits that astonished those unused to royalty stepping into everyday settings. For many, it was the first time they saw a queen not only as a figure on a balcony, but as a human being willing to listen. Her role as queen wasn't without challenges. Leopold was a serious man, more reserved than Astrid, and Belgium itself was a country divided by language and culture. Yet Astrid's warmth made her a unifying figure. She learned to connect with both French and Dutch-speaking Belgians, making her presence felt across the kingdom. In just a short time, Astrid transformed the image of the Belgian monarchy. She had not been queen long, but her style of queenship was clear, one rooted in compassion, simplicity, and accessibility. And while the nation admired her public role, Astrid's private life was equally admired. She was not only a queen, but also a wife and mother, roles she embraced with the same dedication she gave to her people. And it was in that role, as a young mother raising her children in the royal household, that her popularity reached its peak. By the time Astrid became queen, she had already won the hearts of the Belgian people, but it was her role as a mother, not just as a monarch, that made her feel truly human in their eyes. She and Leopold had 3 children: Princess Josephine Charlotte, born in 1927, Prince Baudouin in 1930, and Prince Albert in 1934. These children would one day carry Belgium's monarchy into the future, but Astrid raised them in the present with unusual care. Unlike the distant parenting style expected of royalty at the time, Astrid was known to be deeply involved in her children's daily lives. She read to them, walked with them, and was often seen in parks, pushing a pram or holding little hands. Belgian photographers captured these moments, and newspapers praised her as not only a queen, but as a mother who seemed real. This, more than any ceremony or royal appearance, made her beloved. She wasn't playing a part. She was a queen who changed diapers, comforted crying children, and still found time to stand beside hospital beds and speak with ordinary citizens. Astrid's image was everywhere, on postcards, in newspapers, in framed portraits in Belgian homes. She was more than a royal. She was a figure of national pride, young, modern, gentle, and genuinely loved. And yet, just as her image solidified into something iconic, it all came to a sudden end. In the summer of 1935, just a year after becoming queen, Astrid and Leopold left Belgium for a short holiday. They travelled to Switzerland, near Lake Lucerne, a peaceful mountainous region they both loved. On the morning of August 29th, they decided to take a drive through the countryside. No security escort, no chauffeur, just the king at the wheel and Astrid beside him in their convertible. What happened next would change Belgian history forever. According to the official account, Leopold lost control of the car while descending a narrow road near Küsnacht. The vehicle veered off, struck a tree, and Queen Astrid, who had reportedly been reading a map, was thrown from the car. She died instantly. She was 29 years old. The news reached Belgium in hours. People poured into the streets, stunned and silent. Government buildings draped in black. Church bells tolled for days. The grief was immediate, and it was overwhelming. A queen loved not just for her role, but for who she was, had vanished in a moment. But in the aftermath, questions lingered. Some reports claimed Leopold had been speeding. Others said Astrid had stood up in the car just seconds before the crash. Whispers of tension, distraction, even faint suggestions of sabotage circulated quietly. Never confirmed, never disproven. The truth was, no one really knew exactly what happened. What was clear was this: Belgium had lost its queen, and something about the monarchy itself felt broken. Even in death, Queen Astrid remained a presence in Belgium, not just in memory, but in the nation's very identity.